Hey guys, welcome back to our discussions with Scott and Nathan. Christ Community Church, Celebrate Recovery, or Care Ministry. I hope that everyone is staying warm. It is snowing really hard right now behind me. So we are talking about another book, though, that we want to introduce to you guys. I'm going to show it real quick. It is called The Other Half of Church by Jim Wilder and Michael Hendricks. And it has been a fabulous and enlightening book as well. So what made you want to first pick it up and read it, Scott?
You. You texted it to me and said, you might like this. And I tend to listen to my books on Audible, and there it was. And I am almost through my second time of listening to it. And it has been incredibly challenging. It's one of those books where I listened to it and I thought, could people really do this? Like, it's one of those that almost feels like in some aspects feel like they're on the edge of our Christian norms, but I really am enjoying it. What stood out to me is the title of the book, because as I've gotten into recovery, and teaching recovery and working with recovery, I think a lot about neuroscience comes up a lot, and he addresses, that's kind of the premise. In fact, I think Jim Wilder calls himself a neurotheologian, if I'm remembering correctly.
He does.
Never heard that before, so I love it.
So Michael Hendricks, he actually was a pastor of spiritual formation, and even in the book, he says, I did not even understand how people grew. And he's saying this from the position, not just pastor, but really understanding the neuroscience. I mean, just the physiology of learning, of maturing, of growth, even character growth, right?
Yes.
So he says in here, character formation, which is a primary responsibility of the church, is governed by the right brain, not the left brain. This is chapter 1. So what did you pick up from that just first introduction of talking about right brain and left brain?
Well, as a practical takeaway from that, if I sit and listen to a message and hear somebody say or preach, you need to be honest, I can hear that and I can believe that to be true, but it may not change my level of honesty. It may not keep me from lying. And his argument is we have to engage with the right side of the brain through various practices and disciplines and exercises to begin to develop the right side of the brain, which is where character development, he argues from science, character development takes place first in the right side of the brain.
And that, I think that presents one of the biggest thoughts or even questions in people's mind when they're coming to church is, how is this sermon or how is this Bible passage really going to help me grow? Whether they say in faith or in my walk, something like that. What are they really saying?
Yeah, they're saying, what difference is this going to make in my life? I've tried so many things, and in some cases they don't work. And so these two authors, Michael and Jim, they really get into, it's not like these things are brand new and things that you've never heard before, but the rest of the book, he talks about a healthy soil. He uses that analogy. What are the elements of a healthy soil to bring about lasting character development?
Mm-hmm. So we want to read a passage from the first chapter of The Other Half of Church, which he's really talking about, which if you see the book, he's really talking about the two sides of the brain. And hopefully this will offer a little bit of an illustration, because we both thought it was an excellent story. So this is Michael talking. After buying our first house, I decided to plant tomatoes. To my surprise, the plants exploded over the summer, and we had hundreds of homegrown tomatoes. We had a difficult time keeping up with the harvest. I was surprised how easy and fun it was. Planting tomatoes in the spring became a yearly tradition for our family. Who doesn't want that? Unfortunately, my tomato harvest decreased over the next few years until one summer I picked only a handful. I discovered that tomatoes are heavy consumers of nutrients, so they deplete the soil over time. I was planting, watering the same way each year, but saw fewer and fewer tomatoes. My mistake was that I was neglecting the soil, which got depleted. I read an article on building blocks of healthy soil and immediately started building my soil back to health. I replenished the soil each year with the nutrients that tomatoes need to grow, and my harvest quickly improved. Once I met Jim and started learning more about the brain, I wondered whether the same was happening in my Christian life. Was I trying to grow in depleted soil? If so, what nutrients did my soil need? Could these nutrients be related to the new area of discipleship that Jim was sharing with us? What do you think about that, Scott?
Yeah, that definitely caught my attention. And I just find this whole area so fascinating. That's why I've listened to the book twice. Well, and also wanting to get ready for what we're doing right now. But I do think, in my experience, I think of my own education, we do tend to focus on the left side of the brain, especially as he defines it. And yet, if character development, even if it's only half, he says it's completely found on the right side of the brain, we really need to pay attention to what some of those ingredients are for a healthy soil, which I'll just tick off, and then we'll go through in future episodes here, you and I together. But he talks about the importance of joy. He uses a Hebrew word, hesed, which is basically loyal love. A loving, healthy culture of correction among believers, the identity of a group. He talks about spiritual disciplines, but he recognizes many of them are left side. He speaks highly of spiritual disciplines, but they're not always hitting the right side of the brain. So they're important, but he puts them in context. And then narcissism, which caught me off guard. I'm like, wow, it's interesting. He's bringing in narcissism into a book about the two sides of the brain. But it's basically the idea that a narcissistic personality is the opposite of healthy soil, the kind of ingredients that we want to grow as followers of Christ. He says narcissism is effectively the opposite of that. So it's a great book, and I look forward to talking more about it with you.
Yeah, in fact, we love it so much. We are going to try and follow pretty much table of contents to just give you piece by piece, really unpacking this, because in my opinion, it's one of the biggest kind of not secrets, but unspoken areas that many Christians wonder. Because really, when we first come to faith, we read these stories in the Bible for the first time, and we see a lot of change in the very beginning of our lives, right? And then over time, what happens? We still will read the Bible, but it's not hitting us the same way anymore. The information that we're taking in doesn't seem to be doing the same level of impact that we saw in the beginning of our relationship with God. So again, the other half of church, we highly encourage you guys to read it. And we look forward to sharing piece by piece just how a new way of thinking about spiritual growth. I am very excited to get into this book. So hopefully you guys will tune into each one of these because I think that they really provide a lot of people will say secrets of success, and I actually think this is one of those accurate statements where they provide. They're not secrets, but they're just not often thought about as the nutrients to the soil of our brain so that we can really grow and develop. And we will hopefully see you on the next video. If not, we encourage you, of course, to come out and celebrate recovery. Sometimes, like now, it is really snow. I think these snowflakes are as large as my fingers. But if we can't make it because of snow, we are online, but it is every Monday night at 7 p.m. If you're not coming, we definitely encourage you to keep tracking with our videos, just as a first way to familiarize yourself and get acclimated to our community, because we love you and we want you to continue to grow in Christ. And thank you for watching. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.